session. This is our third Monday of the month support pod. And why do I have to say that? Because we are launching a third support pod. This is breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. This just in. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this news. Larry O'Connor, one of the people who joined the embodied integral journey and growth in Boulder, Colorado this past April 2025, has stepped up to lead himself and host a integral life practices support pod, and will be happening the second Mondays at 4 p.m. PST and 7 p.m. EST for 1 hour. And information will be available on ileanow.org shortly. If not, when you watch this in the future, it will be there. And you will need to register for that separately than the other ones. We also have our writing support pod on the first Mondays. Woo! Going strong, where writers can support each other. And this support pod, which is on the third Mondays, is really for people who have projects. So if you have a project, come here, share your project, and we'll give you advice, solicited advice, which is fun. And we want to support you. And we always ask our presenter to tell us how they want support, like be very specific, so we can support you the best we can. And I'm so excited for this one. And I'm probably always really excited, so I'm not trying to say anything bad about everyone else who's ever presented. But today we have Marco Morelli, Marco V. Morelli, just to be really clear. And there's a few things I need to tell you before we turn it over to him. Number one, he is going to be presenting at the Integral European Conference in June. Actually, is it May?
May and June, but I'm presenting the 1st of June.
This is very exciting. He's going to be representing America. So,
tall order.
Be respectful. Follow those guidance, on
Not my fault.
Europeans. We know they have a lot of manners that are confusing to keep up with. But anyways, Marco, we know you're going to do great. The other things that are really important to know about Marco is he's a co-author on Integral Life Practices. So maybe he will occasionally show up at Larry O'Connor's to weigh in and judge people. Just kidding. And then the other one is that he's currently, and this is what we're going to be hearing about today, the chief creative organizer for the Cosmos Cooperative. And we're going to be hearing all of that. And with no more comments and entertainment from me, let's go over to Marco Morelli. Put your hands together.
Hey.
All right, Marco.
Before I get into it, can you tell me about the format of this? For example, how much time do I have, and when should I make time for questions or for advice or suggestions and so on?
Number one, time is a construct. So you can do whatever you want to. We're all going to leave at the top of the hour. So if you're still talking, enjoy. We will have a 1 hour session today, and we'll be leaving at the top of the hour. So usually it's a 20-minute session, and then Q&A discussion, and we'll drill you and also come with a lot of advice, which we have much of.
So Marco, the way that I love it when Victoria asked the question, what does support look like? So I know that you're going to talk about Cosmos, but in that way, when we are actually having questions, when we are having discussions, if there is a way that support looks to you like an action, like a behavior, then let us know.
Okay. Thank you. I'll get started then. So I'm talking about, we're good? Okay. I'm talking about Cosmos Cooperative. It's a member-owned creative community. It's a member-owned arts organization and media company whose mission is to connect, educate, and inspire in service to the goodness, truth, and beauty of the world. that's the big philosophical idea. Concretely, that means that we do multimedia projects, we do live events, we do integral learning, and we do mutual exchange, and we provide, we nurture, we foster community for cultural creatives, and we support artists in developing, producing, and promoting their life's work. And so I began doing this work about 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago, because I am an artist, I'm a writer and a poet, and I wanted to create a vehicle for my work, but I didn't want to do it in isolation. I wanted to do it in community with others. And I wanted to find also a vehicle, a context that was aligned with my values. And those values have been emergent over the course of my life, but a big transition point for me, a big transformative moment for me was when I encountered Ken Wilber's work and passed through that stage of consciousness, you could say, or that phase in my life of working with Wilber and Integral Institute and engaging with all these very bright minds and these really creative, dynamic individuals who were attracted to his work. And I found in that context a really dynamic, collaborative kind of place that had so much potential. It did so many great things. Like we're the fruits, of that movement and that work that Wilber and all of that group was doing. But then it also had downsides and shadows. And one of the ones that I recognized at the time is that there wasn't really an organizational structure that was actually integral. The ideas were integral. Many of the people had what you might call integral consciousness, but the organization itself as a larger structure didn't really reflect that. And that was one of the reasons I think why it ultimately had to change and didn't kind of survive in that incarnation and had to become some other things. So after working there from 2003 to 2007, co-authoring the Integral Life Practice book, I went into a period of, let's say, self-reflection and other things going on in my life. I got married, I got kids, and so on. But I also returned back to my creative roots and my poetic roots, and I wanted to figure out a way, I think, this is in retrospect, but some way to bring those worlds together, like the worlds of my creative impulse with Wilbur's big vision, with also like what my reflections on what was going on in the world. So this is a bit post 2008, post like Occupy movement, when at least for me, there was a dawning awareness of the inherent structural problems with the way that society manages its economics. You mentioned post-capitalism before, Kim, and I was becoming aware of other ways that that societies could manage their resources and develop themselves, and other organizational forms in particular. So when I got this idea to do what became Cosmos, I searched around, like, how should we structure it? Like, what's it going to be? Is it a nonprofit? Is it for profit? Is it just my own thing? Is it just kind of a loose collective? Like, what is it? But I struck upon this cooperative idea because I believe, because a co-op, it's an old model. I mean, you can say it's as old as humanity. Humans have always been cooperating, but as a legal form, it goes back to the mid-1800s, the Rochdale pioneers who invented this form of a corporation where the members are owners and where democratic control is built into it. And then there's been many variations over the years, but the way that Cosmos is structured is as a multi-stakeholder cooperative, which you could really think of as a holonic organization, where in our case, we have different types of members, and we also have different circles or domains of activity. So why don't I share my screen and show you just what that looks like for us in this sort of visionary space. Give me 1 second, I have it queued up right here. All right, this is a artist's representation. of what Cosmos Cooperative looks like. And as you see, we kind of have a vision, and we have this idea of transitioning, being a catalyst, and contributing to a movement of transitioning our civilization, our global civilization, to a new phase state that is based in the imagination, based in ecological balance, a lot of things that go into this. But these are the main circles. These are the holonic circles of Cosmos Co-op. We have community. We have publishing. We have education. We have business. And we have technology. And these work together as an ecosystem to mutually support each other and to provide domains of action where people can get involved and participate and co-create new structures, new ways of engaging, new ways of being together, new things that we could bring forth into the world as creatives and creators and co-creators. And then it's not represented here, but in our organizational structure, these primary circles are tied together in what's called a synergy circle. And that's like a coordinating circle. So I'm talking organizational structure, and a council holding the mission and the purpose of the organization as a whole. So you'll see a couple of other things here. Metapsychosis, that's a funny word. Infinite Conversations, Untimely Books. These are actual projects that we've been working on for the last decade. Metapsychosis is a journal that has published over 400 pieces of essays, poetry, fiction, science fiction, music, video. We publish twice a week, and it's an active group with a team of editors that and many, many creative contributors that publishes regularly. Untimely Books is our publishing imprint. We've published 8 books so far, 7 since 2022. And there we do science fiction, again, philosophy, poetry, fiction, memoir, and that's been a real focus for me, especially over the past couple of years. And Infinite Conversations is an online community forum that's been active since 2015 as well. Besides that, not represented here, I'll stop sharing this, but I'll share this with you all later if you want to see it again, is we also do local events. So here in Colorado, there's a local group, and every month we do an event called Stellar Sundays. So we've done that every month this year, and we did one, our inaugural event in November, a launch event. And it's a community potluck and creative showcase. We usually have 30, 40 people show up, and we have artists, musicians, poets, visual artists. Last night we had Indian classical dancers, and we get together, we break bread, we enjoy the performances, people meet, talk, and it's a really just nice way to for people to get to know each other. So that said, I'm the founder of this organization, and I have a number of collaborators, including on my editorial team and including the local events. Bet has recently become a collaborator and is going to be representing Cosmos at the Edge City Esmeralda event gathering in June, and working on technology, we hope. We applied for a grant through them. We also have developed a constitution. We've developed membership agreements. We've developed investment vehicles. So we're able to sell shares in the cooperative. And this is very new. In fact, just on Friday, I got the draft of our investor agreements and disclosures that will enable us to sell shares, dividend-bearing shares in the cooperative. So we have a lot of things going on, but one of the challenges is that I'm still like this bottleneck. Like I'm the founder who's still doing too much, and I need to find, and I've partially found a group of leaders, people like Ellie Wilkins, Ellen Kuhl, Jeffrey Jen Edwards, names that you may or may not know. But I need to flesh out these circles where like maybe I'm doing things in a sort of half-assed way with people who are dedicated to developing the potentials of that circle, developing the potentials of community, of technology, of education, and furthering our publishing, because we've just really gotten started there. I think. I mean, I think that there's a lot more that we can do. So transitioning from this founder-driven organization to a truly distributed, leaderful organization, where we have strong coordination amongst our various circles, and where we're actually like embodying like I think maybe a democracy 2.0 or something, some actual form of coordinated, integral, sociocratic, holocratic leadership is the transition that I'm going through now. So I'm really actively looking for collaborators. I'm looking for investors, donors, help with organizational development, help with marketing. That's a big deal. Technology, and Bet is helping with that already. Business development, and I have a couple people that are helping, but I think we need more. Like we really need to know and to test and to develop what our revenue streams are going to be. And I think one of those is going to be our membership, but there's going to be others. And then overall, really like big picture visionary leadership, like holding the whole vision and creating relationships within this a larger ecosystem of other integral organizations like ILEA, or like Integral European Conference, or like Edge Esmeralda and others, so that we're finding ways that we can be synergistic with them, and we could be contributing to a larger kind of a meta movement that is really sharing knowledge, sharing resources, and bringing to fruition, bringing to action the kind of visionary thinking that has grown not only in this integral space, but in the adjacent spaces around it. So I'm going to stop there. I've just dumped a bunch of information, and I have much more, but I'd love to get your initial feedback, answer any initial questions you have, and receive any solicited advice or unsolicited, if you have any. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, so let's queue up using your hands, and Marco, you can address the questions as you see the hands.
I'm actually looking for the icon. I can't.
I know it. I just think we should put our hand up, Ron. That was my question.
Ron.
Yeah. Yeah, Marco, I love your initiative, and I love the philosophy behind it, creative community connecting and inspiring with regard to the beauty of the world. That really sort of resonates. Just as you were talking about, Cosmos and co-ops, I'm wondering if you've ever heard of the work of Stafford Beer, who has a model called the Viable Systems Model, which is based upon cybernetics. The reason why I sort of mentioned that is if you're potentially, it might be a structure that might support what you're doing as a way of organizing elements within the Cosmos Co-op to make them communicate more effectively and efficiently with each other. It is a co-op model. It has been applied in a number of areas. Stafford Beer, Stafford, and his surname is Beer. Might be having a look at it. Do a Google on the VSM, which is short for the Viable Systems Model.
Okay.
And you'll find a number of diagrammatic explorations of it, and you'll also get led to some examples of its application in government,
corporations, and in particular, one successful one was in a co-op
Okay.
situation. Yeah,
Thank you very much. I will look that up.
cool.
And that's an example of what we want everyone else to do. Good job, Ron.
No, I was just gonna ask if I can steal the image. Did you send that to us, Marco? Do we have that at ILEA, that image?
The one I just shared,
Yeah.
screen shared? No, we just created it last week. So I'll
Oh,
send.
well, I'm glad. Yeah.
It's actually the middle of a trifold brochure, and we're still kind of tweaking it, but I'm going to bring it with me to Integral Europe. So I'll share it with you too.
That would be
And-
wonderful.
And Bet, I should send some of those with you.
Yeah, actually, you should mail me a bunch of stuff before you leave. I also could
That's
just print it
yours, too.
here. You could just send, I don't know if they like print things. Anyways, who's next? Who's next? Karen, I see that hand.
Yes, I love the image you just showed us, and I hear that this is brand new and still in the works. The image that I found when I was investigating Cosmos Cooperative's website that made me think ILEA was a comparable model, excuse me, an earlier one that you have on your website under the organizational menu, excuse me, whatever you call it. And I was thrilled. It had a circle in the center, and that was kind of you and your council. And then it had the other 5 circles around it overlapping. But then it also had a circle with dotted lines that said 501c3. And I believe the Cosmos Cooperative is a 501c6. I'm not so sure what that is, but I know 501c3 organizations. And I gathered from the blurb there that that Cosmos Cooperative would have some use for 501, an organization with a 501c3 status, and I thought, ILEA. Yes, that one. See, foundation, not profit, sponsor. That's it. And it was the sponsor. And that's why I thought ILEA has 501c3. And that's why I got you together with Bet and the rest of you and so on. I am curious what you imagine, what your role you would imagine for a 501c3 not profit sponsor relative to Cosmos Cooperative.
Great question. So in terms of our funding, I mentioned investors, but there are also things we do that would be well aligned with nonprofit 501c3 type charitable giving. For example, we do literature that falls under the IRS guidelines for tax deductible donations. Education also falls under those guidelines. And I think in the world of funding, there's some people who want to be investors and potentially get a return. There's other people who just want to give money and support causes that they believe in, and maybe get a tax deduction, for that. So, in fact, we do have a fiscal sponsor locally, a Colorado-based organization called the Boulder County Arts Alliance, through which we're able to receive 501c3 donations. But I think being in a relationship with an organization like ILEA, which operates on a different scale or in different spaces, would also be valuable, because that would enable us to connect with specifically donors who want to support the integral movement and who are operating with integral consciousness. That's a bit just other layers, in terms of who our audience is.
Thank you. So I know that you and Bet have gotten together and have done a lot of brainstorming together so far. I'm curious, Bet and Marco, what you see coming out of this meeting today, or what you might hope for, even if it's pie in the sky.
Well, Bet, do you want to say something, or I'll go? I think Cosmos, as an organization, needs people, and I have a list of 30 to 40 people who are like engaged on one level or another as members or proto members, because we haven't completed all of our paperwork to really sign people up as members. We have a handful. I'm still working through it, and I've been waiting to complete our full legal doc process. But to place people, or for people to enter into specific roles and say, I'm going to be responsible for this. This is going to be like my domain, and I'm going to work in this circle, developing this aspect of Cosmos, and to have that fleshed out and filled out so that we can start firing, like, on all cylinders, so to speak. That would be my dream. Also, that we have the funding to pay people to dedicate the time to doing so. Because I have found time and time again, doing this on a shoestring, all volunteer, that people have only so much gas for that, especially younger people, like in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, who really have to make a living, have to pay their bills. They have not yet retired. They haven't yet necessarily built the wealth to allow them to participate in these kinds of projects. With it, just at a certain point we hit a practical wall, and I've just lost people because we can't pay them to do the work, even though they would want to do it and they would prefer to be working with us than doing random, freelance gigs or a corporate job or something like that. So having the funding to pay people to do the work, I think, would be really the best outcome. So there may be people that are connected with ILEA and the ILEA network who are looking for this opportunity, like as to be engaged as a participant, to be engaged as a donor or funder, or an advisor. Like I've talked a bunch with Michael about participating. He's interested in helping us out with organizational development and leadership development. And that was an amazing outcome from Embodied Integral here. And Bet is another. Also an amazing outcome. But I know that Bet also needs work. Like she needs ultimately paying work. And so not that she wouldn't just do it out of the goodness of her heart, or because it's like her creative desire to like do something cool like this, but it's just practical. And I do too, frankly. So so those are the kinds of connections that I'm hoping come out, not just through ILEA, but through Integral Europe. And then, I'm just going to keep going, and sort of the Pied Piper of cosmic integral vision people for building this, because I really wanted to amplify our voices, and I want to bring good work into the world.
Pied Piper.
I'll add what I'm seeing. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to Healdsburg for a week, and I will be the representative.
That's some little place in North Bay Area, California, just so you're clear.
Famous. So famous.
Yeah, like
this
hot springs
little,
and vineyards, just so we're clear.
Tiny little town. And it's funny because I have been very interested in the network state, which is something that actually I brought to ILEA. My first, board meeting, I brought support pods, which we are on right now. So the idea is to let people across the planet work together virtually and then land somewhere occasionally to meet each other and really amplify each other's efforts. So that network state idea is what this Edge City, Edge Esmeralda is. So it's like I've been traveling down this parallel track, and Marco needs some software that's very similar to something I built for Toastmasters. It's really synchronicity in many ways that Karen brought us together, that dance party at the event. And there's a lot of like, wow, like, oh my gosh, all these things align. So that's the first thing, is I'm going there. Marco is going to Europe. We're dividing and conquering the world so that we can fully conquer the whole world. And then Ron's going to take care of the Down Under. Yeah. So we divide and conquer the whole. Yeah, there's a lot of
global south.
Global south.
I have the same vision of helping humanity evolve. I quit my big job at Meta to help humanity evolve, and that's my goal. And there's just so many different things I want to help Marco with including a pipeline, social media pipeline to help people like Karen who have so much gifts but don't want to spend all day doing social media, helping authors bring their work out. That's a big thing I'm really excited about, and using AI to help us all. And then the other big thing is mentoring people who are developing apps and tech. I'm really interested in ethical technology, which is what the week I'm going there is called DEAC, which is decentralized democratization. And it's all about helping technology become intentional to help humanity. Anyways, I'm reading all these books that Marco is sending me, and I am becoming an expert on all this, but it's so aligned with my mission on this planet. I'm just really excited about everything. So that's step one, is go to Esmeralda, Edge Esmeralda, and hopefully grant. Kim, are you okay?
Yeah, it froze. And so I thought it was you, but it was me because everybody was frozen, which is normal. Okay.
Yeah. So that's step one. And then eventually, hopefully right after that, we get the grant and then start building this software tool to really help the group. And I'm so passionate about incentives and helping volunteers and people get recognition. This is what I've cared about since I grew up in the church where my father, I hope he doesn't watch this, never thanked anybody and never recognized anybody. And that's, I think it's so wrong. And so this is like a life mission to help people get recognition for hard work, which is so valuable. Anyways, that was probably long, but back to you, Marco.
Well, I just sorry, was that?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I mean, specifically, there's a concept that we've developed called Litcoin, which is a community currency, and it's a means of recognizing, rewarding, and incentivizing contributions within a creative ecosystem. So you're not just volunteering and doing things for free, but you're also earning Litcoin, and you could use Litcoin to exchange for another person's services, or just to gift them to say thank you. I really love that Zoom meeting you organized, or like that comment you left on. And I think I want to say too, that one thing I've noticed across, and one of my motivations for this across the creative people I know, across the teachers I know, like the scholars, the spiritual teachers, the yoga teachers, like, and others, is one consistent pain point across all of them has been the marketing, two or three consistent pain points: marketing, business, technology. All those like hard, you know, right hand quadrant, you know, dimensions of what it actually takes to take a vision or creative gift that you have and bring it into the world and connect with other people and make it practical. So what I hope that Cosmos can provide is like the infrastructure for that, is like a platform for that, and to take some of the weight off of people's shoulders so that like they don't have to do it all from scratch. On the one hand, they don't have to do it all from scratch, and on the other hand, they don't have to use platforms and services that are actually designed to extract value from them, from us, and to addict us to their products, to the detriment of society as a whole. So one of the things that Bette and I think really agree on is that we can use technology, and we can develop and design technology to actually support human evolution and to be human-centric, rather than like capital-centric, rather than just being there sort of in a fancy packaging and like an addictive interface to make a lot of money for shareholders, to actually have it be in service of the community that is using it. So that's why the cooperative economic model, I think, is also important, because it can be wealth generating, but the wealth is not just for a very small subset of shareholders. It's actually for the community that is participating in that platform.
So I have a question, Marco. I really, there are two phrases you used that I really liked. One is domains of action, and actually from both the leadership realm and also the volunteer or the small pay or whatever it is place. So when we're trying to get involvement, when we're trying to get people engaged, when we want to draw people into community, it's really helpful for somebody to have something to do that's valuable. So I really liked your domains of action because they're like, you know, an open door into a room where something's going on, and the something going on can be important, and whoever that center circle of leadership is can determine those rooms that you called education and whatever. Remember, see what I remembered. But having actions available also helps with that, getting people in the door. So I like it just when I'm looking at it on your image, but as a phrase, domains of action, that's really powerful to me. That's like an open door. It's like, whoa, I could go in that room and do something. What? And then I want something on the board. You can tell I really am a teacher. I want something on the board that's going to say, you could do this for homework, or you could do this for extra credit, or, you know, but those domains are lovely that way because they're an open door invitation. And the second thing you said, and I want to hear more from Ron about this, is you said that you, at that point in your life, could find no organizational structure that was integral. So what do you mean by that? Just because I want to have it a little bit more clear in my own head. I mean, I can talk about states and stages and development. I can talk about deliberately developmental organizations. I can talk about, you know, there's so many ways to understand that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Is post-capitalist integral? Tell me about that. And then I want to hear from Ron if he actually has thought about organizations in terms of an integral organization. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, I can, some of that were limitations of what I was aware of.
Yeah.
Some of it was coming out of working at Integral Institute, and it was a very Wilbur-centric organization. Like, he was kind of the person who decided everything ultimately. And I saw that there were a lot of intelligent people around who in a way weren't like liberated to have their own domains of action, and for the organization intelligence to actually use, like, the collective intelligence to actually use all the full potential of what people were bringing to it. So to me, an integral organization would be like holonic in the sense that it's not just like a flat green sort of everybody is equal and like there's no hierarchy. There is structure to it and depth. So there is this kind of sense of there's a larger circle and a smaller circle and a smaller circle, and the larger circle holds a wider domain of action, but it's not necessarily dictating to the smaller circle what to do. It's allowing for emergence from within the smaller circle to define how it meets the goals and the purposes that are more widely defined. So it's really the marriage of the top down and the bottom up, I would say.
Yeah.
I know that, like, I've learned since then that there are things called like teal organizations, and you mentioned developmentally deliberate organizations, which, you know, focus also on like developing the people, because ultimately it's the people and what they bring to the organization that's going to determine how successful that organization is. Like, you can take a mediocre idea and give it to excellent people and they'll elevate the idea, or you can give an excellent idea to kind of half developed people and they'll they'll dumb it down. So I know that there's a lot more that's been done in that area, especially like in the last couple of decades. And I think it's an open question what an integral organization is. What I will just as a footnote say that what I've noted in the integral community is that a lot of times when people want to go integral, they kind of actually go back to orange, let's say. And they kind of re-embrace their capitalism, if you will. And I think that there's some, I don't know, I've noted, and maybe it's an American thing, maybe it's not as true in Europe, remains to be seen. But there's like the allergy to green, and so sometimes we lose that sense of like, I don't know, sensitivity and multicultural like flourishing and planetary thinking that I would like to see in an integral organization, that we actually aspire to be a planetary organization, that we do aspire to be inclusive and multicultural, and at the same time that we bring in like practicality and what works and like the gifts of that rational structure. So
Yes.
this is my attempt
Thank
to go in that direction.
Yeah.
I actually have a comment on because it reminds me of Ken Wilber's like statement of like we have to keep the health of the overall spiral in mind, and it's like there's also a need to be aware of all these people that are involved or are going to be involved. Where are they at? Because like, do we have some representation from those? We talk about green, but there's some teal and there's some green and there's some. I've started a 501c6 when you started about that in the change management world, and there were a lot of expert achievers there, which was super frustrating. And I was co-founding it with someone who was also in like we're both into the integral space, or started to get into it, and we really tried to design or even the bylaws in an integral way, but then had these check-ins with each other on like how did that feel, like where were you frustrated, because it's so hard to it's nice to have these conversations, but to translate it and have a conversation with someone who's at a different spot at a vertical, from a vertical perspective, and not make it wrong, be with the frustration, but like how do we translate it into something that is actionable. I like this domains of action as well. I think that's a big challenge. And then to your earlier points, where you said I'm kind of a bottleneck, that sounds familiar too. Where do we let go, and where do we let that emerge? Because in my situation, that specific example, I realized I was staying around in that organization longer than I probably should have, because I was worried that things were going to fall apart if I was going to leave. Which is ironic, because like that also meant that did I help the other people develop their capabilities necessary to do it when one person is not there, whether that's temporarily or permanently. So I think it's a very big one to work with, and it resonated a lot when you said that. And I don't have the perfect answer, but
I'll just, please.
So Kim, you had a question for Ron also. Do I remember correctly?
I just was, Ron's depth is great. And I just was wondering if Ron had any insights on that statement that now I've put someplace else. Marco at that time not being able to find an organizational structure that was integral.
I think one of the recurring themes that I have come across in the time that I do the consulting and the work that I do is, it's like new wine in old wineskins, and the new wine it fractures the old wineskins, and it doesn't sort of hold the embodiment of what wants to be happening with this new wine, this new thinking. Constantly, butting heads up against existing accountancy, corporate oversight, corporate governance structures, which have not moved as quickly as the new wine, the new thinking evolves. And so what you have is this sort of ceiling of exploration of what are these new structures in which to realize the potentials of these amazing, innovative, new thinking organizations. And I think that is still problematic. In Australia, it's problematic. I'm not sure about America being problematic. Some of you could speak to that, but it's something that we need to keep on pursuing. When we think about structures and you're thinking about holonic structures, basically, recursive systems within systems within systems, which now allow autonomy and can attenuate where necessary and multiply where necessary in order for the growth to grow, organically and emerge with the power of the new ideas coming forth.
Yeah.
And I think it's tremendous opportunity to explore, what that is. I don't have an answer. I just realize some of the potential pitfalls and the restrictions of operating with new wine in
Little
old
bottles.
structures. Yeah.
Organic, that really I was evolving an organic metaphor while I was listening to you, Ron, like organs in a body that interact, and they need to be in interaction. They grow together, and sometimes you need to focus on one or another.
Absolutely.
But they are organic. It's messy. It's much more complicated than a mechanical structure. So we are growing into a new era. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Well,
just incidentally, just on that, Karen, if I just go back to Stafford Beer's model as well, it was actually constructed based upon how the body works.
No kidding.
Yep.
Okay. Organic.
Synchronicity. Hey, Ron, what time is it in Australia right now?
10 a.m. Tuesday
Ron,
morning.
would you love to tell us all about beers, wisdom, and how to understand this system next month at this time in June?
Yeah, I'm sure I can. If you can send me an email around that, I could. Look, I'm no expert in it. Let me just be right up front. I just find it fascinating as an organizational structure. Yeah, so I'd be willing to share what I know about it.
It's good enough for us, Ron. It's good enough for us. All right, good. Excellent. And with that, we have reached the top of the hour. So thank you so much, Marco. Did you feel like you got support today?
I do. Thank you. And I hope that this ripples out into further responses, questions, and engagements. Anybody who watches this can be in touch with me. My email address is marco@cosmos.coop, COOP, and you can just reach out to me there. So yeah, we can continue the conversation in other venues moving forward.
And I'll put those details in the description. So if you didn't catch that, you can go look at the notes. All right, everyone. See you next month.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.